A lot of the times people ask me, how did I get into the energy healing work that I do with the emotion and body codes? And so I always tell the story of that before I became an energy healer, I was a coach. I'm still a coach. But at that time, I was mainly a coach, and I was calling myself confident and empowerment coach. And I was working with people mainly on recognizing the negative voice and the limiting beliefs that were holding them back. So most of the conversations I would always have with my clients was how we have two sides. And on the one side, we have the unconscious mind, and this is the realm of our emotions and feelings. And the unconscious mind, because it is always present on our shoulder, knows everything about us. It knows where we've been and it knows where we're going. And it's always trying to tell us where to go next so that we can get back to our best version of ourselves, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So we have this thing on our shoulder that says, hey, if you do that, you're going to get into, alignment and where you want to be. And if you go there, it will do the opposite. So the unconscious mind really knows everything about us. The problem is that as soon as we get the notion of the unconscious mind giving us a message, which is always we get very excited and very feeling that we can do this. As soon as we get that message, we wake up the negative voice. And the negative voice says, well, how can I protect you if you're going to do something today that you haven't done yesterday? This is unknown territory. I can't do this. And so a lot of the conversation that I'm having with my clients still to this day is about really recognizing these two voices and making a conscious choice of which one to listen to or which one to act on. So going back to how did I get started is that one day I was watching a seminar with Dr. Bradley Nelson, the guy that invented or channeled the emotion code. And he was giving a live demonstration, and he was explaining how basically our subconscious mind knows everything about us, and it holds all of this information. So even though consciously we forget, unconsciously or subconsciously, all of the information is retained. And what happens with the emotion code is that when we go through emotional traumas or events that we can't process, the energy of the emotions become trapped in our body. And now it interferes with our energy field. Hence, we become ill or emotionally drained or feeling like we are completely out of sorts. So what Dr. Bradley was doing, he was giving a demonstration of, he invited someone to the stage, and he checked in. This guy had a back pain of, 9 out of 10 constantly. Excuse me. And he asked the question, do you have a trapped emotion that is, contributing to this back pain? And then he was using muscle testing, and he saw that, yes, the guy had a trapped emotion. I can't remember what the emotion was, but he cleared it. And then he checked a little bit more. And then he said, what is the pain level now? The guy said it was 3 out of 10. And my jaw just dropped to the floor, and I was like, oh my God, I have to do this thing. I have to learn more about it. It took me a little bit, took me a year or so to get back into, to raise the funds and to get into that. And then I did my certificates. But before I did my certificates, something happened that really showed me that this is what I really need to do. And one of my clients called me, and she said that she told me that her daughter, who was around 17 at the time, she witnessed a fatal accident and understandably was very, very upset. And I was like, I'll do my best. I really didn't really know what I could do to help, but I said, let me try. And so I had a conversation with the girl, and I saw that she was in a better place when we stopped the conversation. And, so that was good. But 2 weeks later, my client rang again, and she said the daughter was better, but then took, a turn to the worst, and can I have another conversation with her? And I was feeling a little bit insecure because I understood, of course, I got bought into the story of the accident, and I was feeling a little bit nervous of how can I actually help. But then at the back of my mind, I already had the emotion code book, and I already had a script of how to clear emotions. And I said, okay, I'll have a conversation, and then let's try and release emotions. I was quite convinced by that time that there was probably at least one trapped emotion. My client and her daughter said yes, they're happy to try it. And so I didn't really know how to do muscle testing, across Zoom. I got the girl to do the sway test. So she stands and her body, depending if it's a yes, would go forward, and if it's a back, would go backwards. Anyway, I got her to do that. And then I asked her before, I said, what would you like at the end of this session? How would you know that it worked? Because I was also learning at that time. And she said, I just want to be happy again. I just want to be as I always was before all of this. I said, okay. And so I asked her to do the sway test, and I say, do you have a trapped emotions that, that got trapped after the accident? And she did the sway test, and she said yes. And then we walked through which emotion it was, and I can't remember exactly if it was panic or terror or horror. It was one of them, and we released it. And then, because I was over Zoom, I asked her, I basically helped her to release it. And then I looked at her and I said, how are you feeling? And she didn't need to say anything. I just saw this huge cloud just disappear off her. And she was smiling and she was happy. And it was as if she never remembered all of this trauma that she's just experienced. And this experience was so profound to me. I was like, okay, this really is what I must be doing. It took me a while to work out exactly how I wanted to combine my coaching and my healing. There was a time that I just did coaching, and then another time that I just did healing. But nowadays, I actually combine both. So in every session with me, we start with the coaching, or now I call it healing conversations as well. Not to confuse with the podcast that I have with the same name. But we start with the conversations and we go deep. We go deep in order for us to recognize that it's only when we start releasing and sharing and getting all of this trauma and rage and, repressed emotions that have been sitting down, pressed so deep for such a long time. It's only when we start talking about these things that we can actually start healing. Because until then, the brain keeps this idea to himself that says, I've been trying to tell you about your emotions for such a long time, and you've been ignoring me all the time, day after day. I'm sending you messages and you're ignoring me. The only other option I have is to send you physical pain, which I know you will not be able to ignore. The problem is, of course, that when we get a physical pain, we go to the doctors, and the doctors have no ideas about emotional stuff. And so they try and fix us with medicine and surgeries, where the answer is, of course, with emotions. Okay, let me come back from my rabbit hole and let me just explain again. We start every session with a conversation, and we talk about, how you used to do something and it was a coping mechanism, and now it's time for you to re-examine all of this and figure out where are you still operating from fear versus when you're operating from alignment. This is not something I'm expecting you to know straight away, but with my guidance, we walk through that. So there is a lot of conversation about the unconscious mind, and a lot of conversations about the negative voice, and a lot of conversations about limiting beliefs. But it is all done in a pace and a way that is suitable for you. I am not expecting you to go from 0 to 100 in one go, not at all, because we slowly, we need to ease all of this trauma and, emotions out. So we talk about them and we release them by talking. And then afterwards, we're doing the energy healing, which is, of course, using the emotion code and body codes, and we clear the body, the energy field, from all of these blocked emotions and other imbalances. So at the end of the session, you feel so much better, because not only did you have a chance to get some things off your chest and to dig back into some things that until now were very much hidden and repressed, you now also have the actual physical healing. So at the end of working together, at the end of the 6 sessions, you will already, your pain or your discomforts will either go away completely or will be highly reduced. That's nearly a contradiction, but it will be very much reduced. And also, you will learn how to deal with your emotions, how to even recognize them and process them, so that this doesn't happen again. I've given you so much information. I hope this has been helpful. If you want to hear more, if you want to talk about yourself and see actually what is causing your pain, what are the things that you've been repressing or ignoring for such a long time, and this is now resulting in physical chronic pain, chronic illness. Whatever it is, there is a button here somewhere to say book a call. Book a call. Really, it is complimentary, which means that we will just sit and have a conversation, find out about yourself, what is happening in your life now, what happened in your life back then when it all started, and we'll see. If we're fit to walk together, we will. And if we don't, I will send you, with all of my blessing, to find something else. But please have a conversation. You have nothing to lose. And I would be so honored to have a conversation with you. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and I hope to be in touch with you very soon.